Welcome back to another episode of I Wish They Knew, a show where we share big ideas that deserve more attention in about the time it takes to enjoy a cup of coffee. I'm Joe Hirsch. Today's wish comes from Dr. Natalie Pickering. Natalie is a TEDx speaker, an organizational psychologist, and an executive coach who, for more than 20 decades, has helped leaders trade performance pressure for authentic influence. She's helped leaders and founders and teams navigate change, strengthen their culture, and lead with courage, which, gosh, we could sure use lots more of today. And she's the author of a great new book called Leading Becomes You, a real-world framework for leading from the inside out. It's a great book. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Okay, so what do you wish more people knew?
I wish people knew that their identity story is their greatest strategy.
And so for leaders especially, you write that in order for them to lead deep, they have to look deep, right?
That's
Look
right.
deep inside themselves, which I thought was a really fascinating take on leadership for today's times. What does this mean in practice, and what kind of leadership results would this leader identity bring?
Yes. So many leaders that I support haven't done that deeper work, and it shows up inevitably in their coaching. So, one premise is your story, right? Going clear back to the beginning and your professional story is impacting how you lead today. So if we're not looking at it, we're missing good stuff that we might be using in leadership. We're also missing potential debris that may need some clearing out.
So some clutter that is clouding our judgment and compromising our ability to lead more effectively.
Exactly. And if we don't know what that is, right, they're called blind spots for a reason. So there are tools in the book and there are ways that we can look at that story effectively and get honest about the hard stuff and the good stuff.
So getting a clearer sense of who we are and what we value, you argue, is essential to developing this leader identity. Can you give us some direction on how to actually go about doing the inner work?
So looking at identity, that's twofold. My identity is the story I'm telling to myself about myself. It's also other people's experience of me. We have to look at both of those pieces. The process, which I outline, I call it the 4 A's. And just in a nutshell, we start with awareness. So what's there? What's in there, right? What is that deeper stuff? Then we move to acceptance. So that's very deliberate. This is not a ho-hum acceptance. It's an intentioned acceptance. And then assimilation. I'm a farm girl from Ohio, so assimilation is more like composting. And how do we repurpose those things, right? There's some stuff that smells bad, frankly. And so what do we do with it? How do we make sense of it? What's the process? For example, forgiveness, right, is something I talk about in composting. And then finally, authentic activation. So we've done all this work. We've looked deep inside, gotten aware, stepped over the line of acceptance, done our composting. What does that mean? How does that translate to my version of leadership, my version of influence, which only I can do?
Tell me more about this intentioned acceptance, because it seems that that's a part for a lot of folks that could be troublesome. How
Yeah.
to actually come to terms in an honest, intentional, and authentic way with your flaws and move forward knowing that those flaws are there. How do you navigate that?
Yes. So the question we're asking here is around impact. What's the impact that I've had, for good or bad? What's the impact others have had on me, for good or bad? If I had to nutshell that stage, that's really what we're asking.
And so really being clear about how you have affected others and how others have affected you.
That's right. I mean, we're all trying to navigate human life, real life, right? And we want to be honest about things, that have happened. My clinical history is in post-traumatic stress disorder, so part of this book, comes from that work and the whole stress continuum. But things have happened in our stories that have shaped us, that have led us to the story we have about ourselves, that have led us to the story we have about other people, including those we're leading. So getting honest about how I've been impacted, what effect that has had, and getting honest about my impact on others, both and.
Do you think that we can be truly honest arbiters of these stories? I mean, so often we are writing a narrative that suits our version and perspective of these events. How does a person make sure that the story that they're writing or even rewriting is actually true to form?
Yes, I love that you're raising this question. It's actually a premise of the book. You cannot do this work in isolation for the very reasons you're saying, right? I can't see my own blind spots. So early on, I advocate strongly that you choose well, right? A safe person, maybe another leader, whomever that is. Maybe it's a professional, right? A coach, a therapist, whatever. You need a person who's willing to hold up the mirror as long as you're willing to look in it.
Mm,
Again, back to the definition of identity. It's the story I'm telling about myself. It's also the perception and experience that people are having with me. I need to be courageous enough to ask that question.
mm. So this idea of sort of generating insights by seeking feedback from others and being courageous about that. Do you have tips on how folks can actually get more comfortable being uncomfortable about these truths that they may not want
I
to hear?
So I think it's taking permission to be uncomfortable, right? And sometimes there are no workarounds for that. Growth is painful. Leadership is uncomfortable. I think we miss that point that we don't often know what we're doing and that does not feel good. I think there's a lot of narrative around leadership that you should know these certain things, that you should all these performance kinds of ideas that simply aren't true. So taking permission to be uncomfortable, I think is step one, right? And then throughout the book, I actually have questions and prompts that people can use, right, with what I call your SAG support, or that person who's doing this journey with you and asking them specifically, am I on track here? I think the other piece is to ask for specific examples, right? So someone can share, I use this example in the book about myself and a friend who said, I think you intimidate people. And I was very defensive about this and had all these justifications about why I'm not, but she had very specific feedback for me. And while it is uncomfortable, it's honest, right? There's a relief in people helping you see what you don't really want to see.
I think the job of really good feedback isn't to just show people what to see, but to guide them where to look.
Exactly.
So when I started this book, I'll be authentic with you here for a moment. I really thought this was just going to be another self awareness book. And we've had a number of authors on the show who have written wonderful books about becoming more self aware and the challenge of being self aware. But that's not what this book is about. Self awareness is the signature skill of leadership. But as you make clear throughout the book, insights do not necessarily translate into impact.
That's right.
It's what comes after the self awareness that really matters. Tell us more about that.
Self-awareness is step one. So we can, fall into the trap, I think, of just being more aware, being more aware. Okay, that's my story. Okay, that's people's experience of me. What do you do with it? How is that impacting the behavior in your day to day? How is that impacting how you make a decision, how you navigate conflict, how you influence other people? All of those metrics and competencies, which are super important in leadership development, you have your own version of translating those. So what I tried to do in the book is make that connection. Yes, awareness. Now what?
What comes next? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, in order to claim this identity of the leader that you want to be, you have to almost rediscover the leader that you've been. You make that point in the book. And to do that, you introduce a tool which I loved, which you call the leader story timeline,
hmm
which helps you do exactly this work. Tell us more about that.
Yes. So the leader story timeline, literally you go back over the story of your entire life and you're looking for these moments that gripped you emotionally for whatever reason. It may have been a situation at school. It may have been a situation with your, high school athletic team. It goes way back, right? What happens is in that moment, especially when we're younger, we have an emotion in that experience. And sometimes we don't metabolize it, right? Sometimes we don't have the luxury or developmentally, we can't metabolize that experience in the moment. So now when I'm looking back over my timeline and I'm seeing those charge points over the course of my story, I'm actually having an emotion and I can metabolize it. I'm in a space where I can, with my more mature, wiser version of me, go back, see what is there to be gained from that. If I look at that through a leadership lens, maybe there was leadership development happening there that I never even realized when that situation happened, for good or for bad. These are not just bad, awful, horrible, traumatic situations. These are also, wow, when I, showed up again and I had that conversation or whatever it is, that was leadership even then. How do I translate that to how I want to show up in leadership tomorrow?
And do you advise doing that look back on your life at moments when you feel like your leader identity is not fully formed or fully clear to you? Or is this the sort of thing that leaders ought to be doing with some sort of a regular rhythm to
Yes.
really keep clarity and focus as they're leading?
It's all of the above, right? And I wrote it that way. The process is just as effective for new emerging leaders as it is for senior corporate executive leaders, right? Because we're growing as people, we're changing as people. I encourage my own coaching clients. In fact, part of the book was written for my coaching clients and trying to give them a personal retreat experience and their personal, sort of strategic plan in their annual reflection. So yes, it must be revisited.
Yeah. And I think the real takeaway from this book is that you can't look out on the work or on the progress of others unless you first look in and really take the time to think about not only how you are leading in this moment, but how your other experiences are pushing you in certain directions you may not want to go.
That's right. And not doing the work is costly. If I don't look deep, if I don't look at my story, if I don't see how my story is impacting my leadership right now, I'm actually spending a lot of energy pretending that that stuff isn't there, pretending that that stuff isn't affecting me, right? So there's this tension, and I talk a lot about holding dialectics in the book, but I'm holding discomfort in one hand and I'm holding relief in the other hand. I don't have to pretend, right? Welcome to the human experience. Everybody's got a leader story timeline and a bunch of debris that they've got to compost. So I don't have to pretend that that's not influencing my leadership.
It's the power to hold two ideas, this and that at the same time, which really brings
Exactly.
clarity.
Exactly. And the brain loves to pick one, right? We love to pick one. Am I right? Am I wrong? Is it safe? Is it dangerous? Is it good? Is it bad? Both. It's both. My whole office is painted gray for this exact reason, because we're holding tension all the time. That's the human experience.
The book is Leading Becomes You, and the author is Natalie Pickering. Natalie, thanks for sharing your wish with us today.
Thank you. Great to be here.